Pierre didn't do that. $6 billion given to the Philippines for gender equality and climate change? The Liberals did that. Targeting law-abiding citizens for the gun crime problem we have in Canada as a result of the Liberal catch-and-release policies? Pierre didn't do that. The Liberals did. We now have more debt under one Prime Minister than all the Prime Ministers combined in history. Pierre didn't do that. The Liberals did. Sending $20 billion to Ukraine when we have our own infrastructure problems, including not having enough hospitals? Pierre Poilievre didn't do that. The Liberals did. Increased taxes and increased inflation, which is a form of tax and probably the worst kind? Pierre Poilievre didn't do that. The Liberals did. Not being able to travel in a plane or train and being called misogynist and racist for not doing so and coercing our government employees into taking something they didn't want to take? The Liberals did that. Invoking the Emergencies Act, which was found to violate the Charter of Rights, also deemed to be unreasonable and unjustifiable by the Supreme Court in Canada? The Liberals did that. Instead of accepting the ruling of the highest court in Canada, they decided to appeal it. That wasn't Pierre. The Liberals did that. Giving Donald Trump the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state by telling him that the tariffs would absolutely destroy our country? Pierre Poilievre didn't do that. The Liberals did that. Canceling nearly $500 billion worth of pipeline projects to ensure our energy, our oil and gas, goes from coast to coast? Pierre Poilievre didn't stop that. The Liberals did. Telling Japan that there is no business case for us to provide them with liquefied natural gas, only to have, a few months ago, Donald Trump sign a $1 trillion deal for the exact same thing with Japan? Pierre Poilievre didn't do that. The Liberals did. Germany, who gets the majority of their natural gas supply from Russia, came to us asking for our liquefied natural gas. Guess who said no? It wasn't Pierre Poilievre. The Liberals did that. The highest growth of immigration that we've seen in our lifetime, it wasn't done by Pierre Poilievre. The Liberals did that. And now we have a crumbling healthcare infrastructure that cannot keep up with the pace of people coming into the country. Trying to meet the goals of the Century Initiative and having members of Parliament be a part of the board of the Century Initiative that requires 100 million people in Canada by 2100, which results in nearly 780,000 people coming into our country every single year for the next 75 years? Pierre Poilievre didn't sign up for that. The Liberals did. Take a guess who approved purchasing hundreds of millions of dollars of ventilators from a former Liberal member of Parliament. Tell me that's not a conflict of interest. Well, the Liberals did that. When Canadians wanted a vote more than anything else, and instead the government was prorogued, the Liberals did that. Guess who violated rules and government was frozen for 2 months because they wouldn't give information about the Green Slush Fund to the RCMP because a certain party was stealing money from that own fund and giving it to their own member of Parliament's companies? It wasn't the Conservatives, and it wasn't Pierre Poilievre. The Liberals did that. So let me ask you this, my friends. When you have 85% of the exact same cabinet and virtually all the same members of Parliament, you have the exact same team, does it make sense to give them another mandate?